Hello and welcome back to General Geekery. Hopefully you enjoyed our previous 13 episodes. I think it was 13 episodes of the last series we did on A Real American Hero. JD and I picked our top two favorite figures, least favorite figure, and a hidden gem from every year of the Real American Hero line.
And we got listeners on them.
Yeah, I'm impressed. We had I think the most watched show had over 60 views, and the least watched show had at least 20, which is more than the podcast ever did.
Hey, that's like 50 more than I ever expected. I thought we'd get negative numbers. That YouTube would say, fuck that, we're not even watching this.
So. Yeah, exactly. So, as promised, I did leave a hint that we would have a guest, and we have with us today preeminent artist Lauren Wright with us. Hello, Lauren.
Hi, how are y'all?
Good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all. We're always happy to help out artists and customizers and other people that are into the same things that we are.
Awesome.
If we can get a couple more eyeballs on your work, then that's cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, nothing like free publicity, right?
Hey, free publicity and a cool conversation, I'll take it.
Yep. All right. JD, you want to start off with some questions then?
Okay, so I noticed your work because you're in a couple of the G.I. Joe groups on Facebook, but I happened to see, I think your Scarlet drawing or whatever, and it got my attention. So then I started checking your, I'm like, wow, she does, she paints a lot of the female G.I. Joe characters. And then I was looking through your other work. I'm like, wow, you got a wide range of topics.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your fandom of G.I. Joe. How did it start? Where did it start? How long?
Yeah, so I knew about G.I. Joe. I did not know anything really about the intensity of G.I. Joe, the depth at which G.I. Joe came out. I didn't know that. But I think I started with a Baroness first, or it might have been the Scarlet piece, but someone just asked me, hey, do you do G.I. Joe? And I go to a local convention, a Joe convention where I live. And it kind of was like, oh, I don't really know much about G.I. Joe, but I knew I wanted to do something local. And the showrunner was really great and was like, hey, all art is accepted. Like, if you want to do some G.I. Joe stuff, great. If you want to show some other stuff, fine. So I went last year, was my first year ever showing my art. And I went to a Joe convention and just sort of advertised myself as an artist. And then I was like, oh, wow, this is intense. Like there's a whole world I didn't know about in G.I. Joe. And then it kind of from there, they were like, hey, could you do this character? You're into these, sexy, strong females. You should do Scarlet or you should do Baroness. And I was like, okay, I kind of knew who they were just from G.I. Joe, like the cartoon and stuff like that. But I did some more research and was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of really cool females in this universe.
Yeah, Hasbro was always real good about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. So from there, I just started getting people going, oh, you did this character. Can you do so-and-so? And then it kind of just snowballed from there. And then Joe groups were like, hey, share it on the page. And then it exploded. So.
Nice. Well, yeah, because you did one of your live videos last week where you were coloring one of the pieces you were working on. Ron Rudat was in the live broadcast. So I'm like, wow, you got like the top brass on the G.I. Joe line in the 80s. I mean, he designed half of the characters. Most of the characters that came out. He did a lot of the artwork these iconic characters and these iconic figures. Ron Rudat was responsible for most of it until like 1988. So basically all the characters that ever show up in the cartoons while it was on the air and all the early comics, he did most of that, and he knows your work. He was in that. So you've definitely got noticed. Your work has definitely made an impression.
Yeah, and I didn't know who he was. I felt awful. It was like the worst thing in the world was when somebody was like, I was like, oh, hi, Ron. I just greeted him like anyone else. And then I think it was the person who commissioned one of the G.I. Joe pieces was like, hey, by the way, that's the creator of a lot of the characters that you're drawing. And I was like, oh my gosh. I couldn't believe it. And then he friend requested me, and he's talked to me since then. He's so nice. Oh my gosh, so nice.
You know, I actually wonder when he was in that live and you're just talking to him like just another attendee of the chat. I actually wonder if he kind of appreciated that, because all of us fanboys, the geeks, we know who these guys are. They go to conventions, they get mobbed, they get, I have to, you know, they're all on the social media with us. They have no problem, you know, talking to us and engaging with us. But, you know, it's a lot of hero worship, I'm sure. And he notices your work and you're just talking to him like you're drawing G.I. Joe characters that he created, but you're
I've been customizing for 15 years and I've still never even heard from him.
And he was so nice too. He just asked me a basic art. It was an art question about like what materials I was using. So I just assumed it was another artist, you know, who just was like, oh, what are you, you know, just talking. And like I said, I felt like a goober after, because I was like, oh my gosh, it probably sounded like I knew nothing about this world. But
actually, no, I didn't take it that way.
Okay.
You didn't actually give the impression either way. I didn't know. I never picked up you didn't know who he was. I just figured that you're drawing a Joe character. There's people in there, and maybe you'd know who some of these, you know, the you know, the creators. And it turns out he was just another artist you were talking to. He did some work that affected some people. So, but
he's pretty cool though. Like I said, talked to him since then. He private messaged me. We just talked a little bit, and he was a very nice guy.
Yeah, I've talked to numerous creators of the Joe line. I don't think I've ever heard from Ron Rudat either. So, you know, you've got status that us geeky fans, we don't have that kind of status. So, but so obviously, well, because you drew Scarlet Baroness, and then I asked you about Lady J. Somebody else commissioned you to do it, and Cover Girl, and then I saw in the chat people are asking about Zorana and Jinx, and you know, like you said, you haven't done those yet, but so obviously your character base is expanding. Wait, you did Agent Helix, right? I mean, that's pretty.
So yes, so the ones that I've actually done so far are Baroness, Scarlet, Cover Girl, Lady J, and Helix. I have another commission right now for, oh my gosh, I don't want to say it wrong, Pythona. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. All right. You know what?
That character right now as well in the works.
You know what? See, now the more notice you get from other Joe fans, obviously you knew who a couple characters were, but now you've more than doubled the number, and you're going to get more obscure requests from characters that only appeared in one particular. But you're right. See, the G.I. Joe mythos has always been good about having women on the team that stand shoulder to shoulder with all the men on the team, they're not treated as secondary characters. And it's then
not very pretentious. I feel like they stand their own ground.
Exactly. I mean, every time Lady J gets in trouble in the cartoon, every time the guys go to rescue her, they end up just sitting back while she figures shit out on her own. So, I mean, Flint's her dude, but yeah, Flint's her dude, but she don't have to rescue. I mean, she had to rescue him once, you know. So, and it was like that in the comic. But as your work gets noticed more, people will start asking about really obscure Joe characters, because throughout the comic book and throughout the cartoon, they always had new characters and one-off characters coming, and there were a lot of women there, and there's a lot of those characters that have been established. They haven't gotten figures, but they've shown up in other media because they got their fan bases. So, and then the other day you posted a gender bender version of Mutt. That's something.
Just gonna mention that.
I have never seen that. There are Joe characters that I have seen gender bender versions on. Mutt's not one of them. he's not one I would have ever really thought of, because to me, he always strikes me as the gruff animal handler guy that's normally a get off my lawn type. So the idea of making him, turning that into somebody that doesn't look like a bitter old cat lady, that's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
And I have to mention that that's who I'm working on right now.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool!
Oh shit!
That
Nice.
is so awesome!
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Now you're inspiring people to make figures of characters that you're drawing.
Yeah,
So you're not the only one either, because someone just tagged me and they did like a really quick. They didn't do the full model. I guess they just used. I'm not sure if they used parts from another. But they did a quick version and sent it to me. I was like, look, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that
Nice.
Making figures of it. That's so cool. And with the what you're talking about with the G.I. Joe characters, yeah, I had to do a lot of research. Because when people are asking for these characters, I don't just look up the name. I try to look up like whose side are they on? Like what are their different outfits? Like what are my options? Like, because I the last thing I want to do is be disrespectful too. Because even though it is just a cartoon or fandom, there's a lot involved with G.I. Joe. So I wanted to be as respectful, and honestly, I would say G.I. Joe fans are the best and the worst in terms of they will point out to me if something is not correct.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that if you'd had any negative.
Oh yes. I just had a huge negative reaction to the gender bend. There was a blowout on one of the G.I. Joe pages about it.
Yeah, I think I saw that. So
yeah,
I didn't see it, but I'm not surprised, because people always. This is what I always say to my kids. Whenever they bring up somebody else's opinion on something, I always say, you know what? Somebody always has something to say. Whether it's and sometimes they won't say the good, but if they're really they'll say the bad, and you know what? You can't please everybody.
Right.
And there's always going to be haters. Every faction of people, every social group, they all have haters that just don't like anything, and every fandom has it. So
and I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine with people leaving me comments. Like, I actually appreciate when someone says, hey, this would have been better if you would have added her hat, or you would have done this. Now I'm conscious of those decisions, because those were decisions I made for a reason. But I don't mind hearing those, those sort of like positive feedback, or criticism. But when someone's just like, oh, that's a gender bend, you're just trying to make her look like Barbie, what's up with all this feminist stuff? I'm like, dude, I'm not a feminist. I'm not even. That's not even the thing. Well, it's just being creative. It's reimagining a character and getting creative with it.
And I've done that in my own customs. I mean, two of my favorite customs, the Cobra Diver, the Cobra Eel. I did a female version of that, and my all-time favorite figure is the Night Viper, and I did a version of her, or did a female version of her, and I just did a Range Viper. And female version of her. Yeah, I got a lot of flack for that, because she's wearing like a midriff shirt, and they're like, well, she'd get hit by, she'd get burnt by falling.
She's got armor that goes over it.
It's not meant to be practical. It's just meant to be a piece of art.
Well, and you gave her a whole tactical vest to go over it. Well, and like, I don't know, had to have been 10 years ago or so, I did some customs where I did a couple of gender bend characters. I turned Freefall, Sci-Fi, and somebody else into female versions because, Major Altitudes, because they're all obscure characters that, honestly, they've got limited recognition in the Joe media, and they're interesting because of that. I mean, I've seen lots of gender bender Duke pieces, but I think I'm the only one that ever did free fall. So, but and on top of that, they're characters that they're kind of meh to me anyway. So I thought, well, let's make it more interesting. And otherwise, they're not characters I would have made customs of because, but once I had the idea, and I was inspired by somebody else's work that was doing female versions of male characters, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do a couple of these characters, and they were all different, but you're always gonna have these people, and honestly, you say, you know, when you say it's not like I'm a raging feminist, it wouldn't matter, even if you were. That doesn't invalidate anything that you're working on.
Absolutely.
It's just the way you feel about things.
And what's funny is, like, I'm like, just go to my page because you'll see that I only do females.
Female characters.
So I'm like, so if you look at that, you'll understand it's not a feminist thing. It's just I just do females. That's just my style. It's the same as a guy who does all action poses or someone who does robots. You as an artist, you usually have something you favor. So it makes sense for me to make a male character into a female because that fits my genre, and it's also just creative. I had to do a lot of, like, how do I make this not look too butch and still make it, the inspiration was very Lara Crofty, in terms of, like, I wanted to make it sexy but still strong. So trying to get that balance is not easy. So I'm just glad that was commissioned because I think it's a really cool piece. So.
Well, and I think it's cool, but see, in the process, you're going to end up, when you get commissioned by people to turn their guy Joes into girl Joes, you're going to end up learning about so many more Joes in the process that it's going to end up giving you a bigger range of knowledge. I mean, you're new to the mythos. So, yeah, so you're going to end up finding out, honestly, there's I can't think of really any Joe characters that wouldn't translate well in the female versions. And maybe if you keep posting those, some of the most vocal haters will just be kind of like, and then they'll just move on and find something else to hate on instead. So
yeah, they're gonna hate on something. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So, c'est la vie. And then outside of that, because the other works that I saw, like on your Facebook page, you had Batgirl and Supergirl, and then I looked, I'm like, wow, there's a whole shitload of characters, like superheroes, and so I got a question. Now, obviously, you only do female characters, but there is already a Supergirl. So what if somebody commissioned you to turn Superman into a gender bender version of Superman? You would have to figure out a way to make it not Supergirl, clearly still Kal-El, but you'd have to find a way to differentiate it. And I'd just be interested to see how you'd handle that. And because it's not, that in a case like that, it's not quite the same thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's got to be an artistic journey.
And Supergirl, she's younger for one, so I gave her a very young looking body. I mean, you could, there's a lot of things I would first address with that, and it would be obvious hair color, keeping Clark Kent's coloring the same. When you gender bend, I try to keep everything the same as much as I can. So obviously, with I couldn't give her a mustache. So other than that,
well, you could have, but
I could.
You could have.
That would have been a little awkward.
It's funny.
It works for my aunt, so she's got a better mustache than I do.
Wow, that's impressive. It's funny because earlier today I was on Facebook and somebody posted a picture of an Ambush custom they made, and it was a gender bender version. Now, in the toy line, Ambush.
What head they used on that? I was trying to figure out what head they used on that.
Oh, Marvel Legend or Marvel Universe, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. I looked at that. Now, Ambush, he's a survival specialist. He's a camouflage guy. But the most distinctive part about his action figure is he has a beard that goes kind of like this, but it doesn't have the chin. So, yeah, he's got like this massive mutton chops. And being a gender bender version of Ambush, at first I was weirded out by Ambush not having it. And then I was far more weirded out because I'm like, well, if he had given her I'm like, I wonder what would have gotten a crazier reaction, honestly.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was kind of cool. So, but yeah, he kept everything else that was trademark about Ambush. He just, so if you made Superman into a female version, as long as honestly you kept the shield the same, he had she had the S curl at the front of her hair,
Yeah, you need the Jerry curl.
and yeah, exactly. Like that would, and gave her the blue eyes like Superman's supposed to. Honestly, you capture it pretty well, and she wouldn't look like Supergirl. Because I seriously doubt that you would give gender bend Superman a skirt like Supergirl wears.
Well, and honestly, like, so they have very different outfits for one. So even if you did a skirt version of Kal-El's version, it's still going to look very different.
But that'd be a kilt version, and that would kind of be interesting.
Yeah, you could give her like sort of like you're just talking about Captain Marvel. You could give her like a pantsuit, or you could do that. But what I was just thinking is probably the easiest thing I do if the person was commissioning that, which is actually a really good idea. Now it's going to go on my list. But so thank you for the idea. But what I think would be a really cool version is to do the like Clark Kent transforming. So doing like with the glasses, that's a really iconic way to show this is Superman as a gender bend. So
that's cool.
To me, that's like that comes into my head immediately of like, okay, if the person's okay with it, to me, that would show more that this is not Supergirl with glass. This is a version of Superman.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a great idea.
So now it's going to probably go on the list. So thanks.
I don't know if I should apologize or say you're welcome because I've now increased your workload.
You don't understand my list. I keep telling people, they're like, oh, well, add this or add this. I'm like, do you understand how long my list of non-commission based? So commission's always going to go to the top. If you're paying me to do something, it's my priority.
Right.
But I have a long list of like, oh, I would love to do this one day to make prints or just to do for fun. And that list gets so long that I'm like, I can do art forever and I would not scratch the surface of that. So trust me, you didn't add to my workload.
Yeah, so honestly, so now you do comic book stuff, you do G.I. Joe stuff, you've done some movie stuff. I saw you did some Star Wars stuff. Are there any particular like franchises or properties that you're a fan of, or even, one-off movies that you're a fan of that you'd really like to draw those characters, but you just haven't gotten around to it or haven't thought of it? Or are there any properties that you actually would really like to, if you could find the time, that eventually you would draw a character from the movie?
One that there's probably, I'm trying to think. There's 3 that I have on my list that I haven't had an opportunity. So I've been doing a lot of comic book because that's popular. So I have to right now because I'm still a new artist. If I take away from commissions, my priority goes to whatever someone has requested the most. So I take like a tally. So if someone's like, oh, you should do Catwoman, and then I see Catwoman again and again, I start looking at how often that's requested, and it goes higher on the list. So there's some that no one would ever think of that's on my list. One is Disney characters in general. Fairy tale characters, like that whole genre is so wide range of just really cool, even gender bend versions of characters that I've never seen that I'm like, I know exactly how I would do that. The other big franchise would be totally random, but Lord of the Rings.
There's a whole lot of characters. There's a whole lot you can do there.
I love Lord of the Rings. I am like, the way you guys are about G.I. Joe, I am about Lord of the Rings.
Okay, so... I don't know. Okay, hang on. Here we go. I'm going to try to... This tat... Wait, can you guys see it? The triangle on my arm?
No, I see your leg. We got a crotch shot.
Oh, shut up.
I didn't see that.
But you have it. You have a tattoo?
Yeah. Hang on. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to make it out at all, but yeah, that triangle.
Nope.
What?
I have your finger. We got a nice view of your finger.
Oh, God damn it! Shut up.
Now we have a nice ceiling.
Oh my God! Shut up. Yeah, I see it.
Nope.
No.
Well. Oh, fine. I'll post a picture of it.
It's bad.
Send me a photo of it.
Yeah. Oh my God! Shut up.
Because you're backlit.
No. Dude, I don't have patience for this shit anymore. I'll send you a picture of it.
Yeah.
Well, what it is the Lonely Mountain from The Hobbit, which was the Kingdom of Erebor, next to the city of Dell that Smaug destroyed. I am when it comes to fantasy properties, I'm a fanatic over the dwarves. So I got the Lonely Mountain. I got the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings thing, and I've never actually read one of the books, but
what?
Just
hold on.
What?
You cannot have the tattoo if you haven't read the books.
No.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
No, I read The Hobbit. No, I haven't read. No, I've read The Hobbit. I have not read. No, I take that back. I read Fellowship of the Rings, but
how dare you?
No, it's terrible. I should be ashamed, but sorry, not
and
sorry.
And now there's all these great audiobooks where they do the characters' names and stuff. Like, I mean, there's just so many opportunities for you now to read it.
Well, you're right. Well, yeah, I really need to read the other two, but hey, so it goes. But yeah, I mean, I love the dwarf. So you haven't any characters that Tolkien created, and you'd like to, but you just haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, I have a long list. Obviously, the females in general would be fun. I think I'd go there first because there are already awesome female characters that I think are very undervalued in art. There's a lot of in Lord of the Rings art. Like I said, huge fan. I'm gonna nerd. This is where I can nerd out. I have almost every Lord of the Rings art book created. I'm a huge fan of Alan Lee and John Howe, who did the movie art, creative art, also worked on The Hobbit. There's a lot of work that's been done about the landscapes, about Gollum, about Frodo and Sam, but there's actually not a lot of Gandalf. There's a huge amount of Gandalf.
Oh, of course,
right? Which I get it. That is an icon. You think of iconic. But in my perspective of thinking of like strong, sexy females, I think Galadriel would be such a fun piece to do. I would love to do Arwen and Eowyn, and I would love to do some gender bends too. That would be fun.
Well, and you'd have to do Eowyn because I mean, what's her most iconic line in Return of the King? I am no man. After she beheads the Nazgul, the Witch King. So
and I thought that would be cool, of like her with the head too.
That would be badass.
Like she just them, like on the her foot on the head or something. Like she it.
Oh.
I thought about a lot. I thought about a lot of cool stuff with it.
Fuck yeah. Well, okay. Now you mentioned those characters. What would you do with? All right, the female wood elf that they added into the trilogy. I couldn't remember her name.
I'm a great fan, dude. I know everything.
Well, no, I just wondered because
for once.
I
said it's nice to see somebody showing JD up on names for once.
Yeah. Hey, I can know everything. I don't claim to know everything, but because I know there's a lot of longtime fans that they didn't really approve of the addition of her or the characterization of her.
I didn't mind her, honestly, because they took a lot out of the appendices from the Lord of the Rings of already known of characters that just were not created. So she does have a basis in Lord of the Rings, in terms of just like where they pulled her information from. She's not just, completely made up in terms of like what now?
I was gonna say, do me a favor. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because just the idea that there was a basis for the character that they just expanded on, and they didn't. This way, the haters can't keep saying, "Oh, you just pulled her out of their ass. You just made her up." No, I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah, they knew they wanted to do an elf, a female elf, because there hadn't really, other than a female elf that wasn't majestic and
that wasn't Galadriel.
That wasn't Galadriel or Arwen. Those are sort of like greater than thou type characters. They wanted an elf, a young elf. Like, what is it when a young elf doesn't necessarily agree with everything going on? What about a young elf who still wants to explore? And this would be a long conversation, but basically they went into the lore about how the elves went from oh my god, the name's escaping me. See, I just talked about new names. The island they all came from in the very beginning of the Silmarillion and all of that. When elves first came to be in Middle Earth, they crossed over, and they basically, a lot of them were falling in love with places instead of keep going like they should have. And Mirkwood fell in love with the forest. So they were that's why they drink in The Hobbit and stuff. They're almost like a humanized version
Yeah.
of elves. So they wanted to play on that, like one that has a little bit more emotion. It's not so like connected with like a greater power, if you will. So they're more of the earth, I guess. So there is basis for it in terms of her personality, of why she is the way she is. She's not just like, oh, we want to make a girl. They did specifically look up different things about the Mirkwood elves. And there's a lot in there. The name, I believe, means child of Mirkwood, or woman of Mirkwood, something like that. So her name even does mean like she is of this place, sort of thing. I hope I'm not misquoting that. I'm probably gonna look later and totally have that wrong. But so that's I can appreciate her for that reason. And they wanted to show another version of an elf in love with a dwarf that wasn't Galadriel, and is very much mimicking the Galadriel and Gimli relationship, of Gimli sort of falling in love with Galadriel. It was supposed to mirror that and show, what would that look like if it wasn't so, exalted, and what if it could happen. So again, I didn't mind that character. Also, The Hobbit, in perspective of the story, is lacking female characters in terms of showing it for a movie purposes. People don't realize when you turn it into a movie, there are certain elements you're never going to be able to show. There's going to be certain things that you always are going to have to change. And I think it was smart for them to put a female, because if not, then you would have had the same amount of people saying, well, why is there not enough females? Why is there only Galadriel for 10 seconds of the movie? Like, people would have complained about that. So I don't think it was a bad choice. Do I like everything they changed? No. Do I think she had to be in there? No. But I don't think it's as bad as people say. She does, at least they did their research. And I feel like she's still a very thought out character. I don't feel like she was just added in there.
She did show up Legolas a couple times, and that was funny.
She's a warrior. They didn't make her just a, just a side character. They actually made her able to fight, and she's like the captain of the soldiers. So
yeah, so I mean, she's awesome. In fact,
yeah.
I think about it. Masters of the Universe, Tila. I think she was captain the attorney in guard.
Yeah.
So, I wonder if they took some inspiration on that. So yeah, I was just curious because I like the character, and again, all the haters, shut up, just watch the movie. Maybe you'll actually like it if you shut the hell up about it. But
I get wanting to be a purist and wanting everything the same, but again, then you're never going to have that with a movie. You're always going to be disappointed because there's always going to be something they have to change. And I think as long as you keep the themes the same and the overall general like story, I think you can have some liberties when it comes to a movie version of something.
Well, they kind of have to. I mean, if they tried to turn the Harry Potter books into movies, we'd have a 34 movie series, and there'd be a whole lot of nothing happening in some of them.
Exactly. That's my other fandom that I know a lot about that I would love to do art of one day.
Okay, question. Who is your Hogwarts house?
So I'm pretty much Ravenclaw through and through, but I did take it one time. I got Slytherin, so I know they're very similar in certain characteristics.
Every single time I've ever taken one of those tests, Hufflepuff, Hufflepuff. I have never gotten another answer. Yeah, so yeah, I've always been Hufflepuff. Even when I've tried to bullshit and change one answer just to see if still realizes I'm a Hufflepuff. And I am through and through. But I don't know what my Patronus is, but honest to God, my Patronus is probably something goofy like a duck. So
I did look up my Patronus it's a type of cat. It's like a type of alley cat.
Huh.
So.
Didn't Professor McGonagall have a cat for the?
So the one that had a cat, which I hate, is Dolores Umbridge.
Oh, that flaming cunt.
I know. So I was like, when I have a different type cat, I think, but I was like, dang it! I've got a cat too.
Yeah, one of the good one of the heroic characters had a cat. Might have been a minor character, but Dolores Umbridge. Man, you know what? At least Palpatine was likable.
Right? Who likes Dolores Umbridge?
Yeah, Dolores Umbridge is. Oh my God,
You
she's
just
like one of
hate her.
she's like literature's most easy to hate. I don't even know if she has any fans that like her despite being evil. I think she's pretty much just universally loathed.
Which is hysterical because it's like you would think you'd hate Voldemort more, but you're like,
no,
Dolores.
No, because at least he was trying to be that way. She became that way. Like that was always his mission. No, she just let herself get that way. Oh my God. As I was reading those books and she's doing the Harry carving on his hand, I was feeling that shit. So
those are good audiobooks too. If you ever want to reread them, I listen to the audiobooks on long car rides, and they're really actually fun to listen to.
I have heard the audiobooks from all 7 books read by Stephen Fry.
Yeah.
I had to get the bootleg UK version. Like somebody had to send me the files, and because there's nothing wrong with Jim Dale's reading, but I didn't like him for the Harry Potter books. He didn't.
I don't mind him. I didn't like him. I don't like as much the first few. I like it when the kids get a little older. I feel like he does a better job. I think it's his kid impersonations aren't as good. But yeah. I like certain things about him, but they're still, the stories are so good on their own. I think anybody could read them, and I would enjoy hearing them.
Well, I was glad when I found out that it was Stephen Fry, because that guy, I could listen to that guy deliver presidential inauguration speeches and get moved. Honestly, he could read technical manuals. The guy, he's just got one of those voices, and he's funny when he needs to be. So yeah, he's good. Because I have an audiobook that he did of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Oh shit!
Really?
That is classic. Yes.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, see, that one is available in the U.S. I got it on Audible. So,
yeah,
but
I've got an Audible account. I mean, I listen to them when I'm traveling because I work overseas. So, I thought I'd mention that Daniel Radcliffe posted today that he's reading the first chapter of Sorcerer's Stone on the internet.
Ooh.
Yeah, if you want to geek out over that, you probably ought to take a look at that today.
I'm gonna have to. That's pretty cool.
And I think what I saw, I didn't stop to read the article because I was just scanning, but it looks like they're going to have a bunch of different celebrities reading that book over the next.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. If they have Gary Oldman.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Well.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Because there's an audiobook right now. Okay. Within the text of the Harry Potter books, they talk about, history of magic and all these other literary or all the reference books that kids use at Hogwarts. And they're classic literature written by, witches and wizards. And there's one called The Tales of Beedle the Bard. Well, they went and they wrote a whole book about it. They expand on the whole thing. And there's an audiobook right now that's read, like each chapter is read by different actors from the movies. So they got Jude Law and Warwick Davis and what's her name that played Luna Lovegood, and there's a couple others. They're all reading these chapters in the I really can't remember, but so Brian, you've read all the Harry Potter books then?
Numerous times. Every time a new one came, I got on when the anesthesiologist I worked with got me started on them. She was reading it. She'd get her case started, and then she'd read her Harry Potter book. I'm like, what are you reading? So she got me started on that. I think I got on the 4th book. So every time a new book came out, I'd reread all of them before the new book came out.
God damn, dude! I didn't realize you were that hardcore.
Clearly my house is Ravenclaw.
Yes. Because
Team Ravenclaw.
Because hey, like they say in the books, it's not that everyone in Slytherin is evil. It's not that. It's just I just tend to disagree with people that would be oftentimes Gryffindor or oftentimes Slytherin, but I just don't openly disagree. I just disregard.
I actually think people that are actually Gryffindor, I tend to not like them. I actually find that I don't like Gryffindors as much. I get along with Slytherins. I get along with Hufflepuffs. I get along with other Ravenclaws, but Gryffindor is actually the one. I don't know what it is about the ones I'm meeting, but they're like, I'm Gryffindor. I'm like, well, I don't like you anyway, so.
You know, I lean that way a little bit too, and yet really like Ron and Hermione and Harry and.
Oh, in the books for sure, but I mean like real life, like people that are put in that house. I don't know what it is about the test where the people that are getting that are people that I just don't get along with.
Okay, well,
I don't know what that is, but
no offense to the real life Gryffindors that may or may not listen to this, but
sorry,
the fact is, sometimes y'all are too goody for me. I can't deal with it.
I don't know. Maybe that's it, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's the arrogance.
Okay, arrogance. It's that's the only part that I'm like, I just don't completely get along with.
The difference is the Gryffindors think they're better than everybody else, but the Ravenclaws know they're better than everybody else.
True story.
And the Hufflepuffs, we're not so much worried about being better than anybody else, but where we do get a chance to show everybody else up, we will. We will get competitive when we have to, but for the most part, we get along with just about everybody until they really piss us off, and then not so much. But yeah, so Brian, as long as we've been doing this show, I don't think we ever brought up Harry Potter on the show before.
I think it was one of the topics that we had talked about doing, but never got around to doing it because
I think it was too.
I don't think we had a guest to bring on to support it.
Yeah, you're probably right, because
you're welcome.
Even though we're fans, I don't think we've ever actually discussed it on or off the show, other than when you made that custom. But so overall, what did you think of the movies? How they compare to the books, other than there's only half the text there? Not that. I'm talking about the translations themselves, how they actually came out, and the cast that played them.
Oh, I mean, I think like it's like how I said about Lord of the Rings. I think I'm a very easy fan to please in terms of like I'm not gonna nitpick and say, oh, you should have added this or that. There's a couple things with Harry Potter that I really wish they would have either kept or expanded on, but I understand for time's sake, you can't, it's like Lord of the Rings, you can't make a movie that's 5,000 hours long. But overall good. There's certain ones I like better than others. I think it has to do too with when you read the books, which ones you enjoy more, you're gonna be a harsher judge on. Prisoner of Azkaban is one of my favorites. So I'm a much harsher judge of that movie. And I'm like, oh, you missed a mark on this or that. That one's one of my favorites. Obviously, the last one I knew was going to be a struggle because that's so much that happens in that book that I was like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way you guys can do this justice. So, yeah, I overall good. I think the casting was overall good. There's certain things, like I said, I've heard people say this, and I think it's a great idea. I wish the way they're doing a Lord of the Rings series on Amazon, I wish they would eventually do a Harry Potter series. Because I think if you did like a book per season, you could really get a good grasp.
Would you like to see the books in a series, or would you like to see new material in a series?
No, I honestly feel like there's enough they could change and do in a much more what's the word, respectful way, I guess. Certain things
expanded format, perhaps.
Say what now?
Like an expanded format.
Yeah, like I feel like there's certain things you could really delve into that were in the books that they just didn't really even touch on. That I feel like there's enough material there. By far, you would have enough. But I think if they did a season per book, even if you wanted to add more material to add new fans, fine. The world's huge enough, you can add more. But I think just doing those in a that kind of format would be amazing.
Well, and things like with the writing process, yeah, the first season would set out to adapt the Sorcerer's Stone, but as the writing process went, you know, they would definitely be changing stuff, taking characters, moving stuff, combining characters when that's necessary sometimes. Or they could end up taking the whole and keeping everybody roughly the same as they are in the book. You know, they could end up some characters will be bit parts, but the Dursleys would end up having a bigger role.
That's one of my pet peeves.
And well, even in the first one, you know, they show the sorting ceremony and all, but they didn't, they didn't have time to linger on stuff in the movies too much. So
they couldn't. I mean, they couldn't.
Right.
Certain things I understand why they didn't touch on. Because if you did, then you've got to explain it, and there's not enough time in all the movies.
Well,
so that's why I
right.
think a series would be great, because then
that's why I'm saying.
Yeah, you can add all those little nuances.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. See, I'm not saying that as a nitpick on the movies, because obviously they don't have time for it. But I think it would actually be cool. That's a good idea. Put it on a streaming service. Have a 13 episode season where you do, or 12 episodes, 11 episodes, where you do that, and you get a whole lot more of the story in there, and it would be kind of cool. I mean,
that's a bad idea, honestly. I kind of like that.
Because I think there is enough material, especially the last few of the books. There is so much information and exposition and backstory packed in. Honestly, they could, like a book based on Half-Blood Print, or a TV season based on Half-Blood Prince, and putting a lot of substance in there. They could easily get away with a 15 episode season, and still.
That's what I'm saying.
So it would go deeper, but not as deep.
No, and I think the biggest thing it would help is I think the movies, if I had one nitpick, is the some of the characters were very one-dimensional, and it's because they had to be, because they had to introduce them, get them in the story, get to their part, and get them out, kind of thing. But I feel like the books, there's so much dimension to some of these characters, like Sirius, for instance. Even I feel like he could have been such a bigger story to that. Dumbledore, even to some extent, I think is the only one that really gets expanded in the movies by himself, and even him, I'm like, you barely scratched the surface with his information. So I think it would add such dimension to these characters, where they're not just, oh, that's Harry's best friend, or that's this person, or whatever. I think there's just more to it.
Well, and you could, because I mean, just if you even think about big events from the books, it had to be glossed over. Where the movies and the books really fell off for me initially was after The Goblet of Fire. I read that book, and then I saw that movie, and then I took a long break from reading the books so I could read them after I had already seen the movies, so I wouldn't go into the movie with expectations.
Yeah.
Goblet of Fire, the movie, disappointed me so much because there was so little of it.
Yeah.
It was actually spent on the Triwizard Tournament. There were entire challenges that were glossed over. There were the other competitors are barely there. You see, they could spend half a season just showing us a proper Triwizard Tournament. I mean, I was honestly surprised in the last one when maybe it was number 6, where they show the Quidditch World Championships. I was surprised that was in there at all, because it's huge in the book, but there's so little Quidditch in the movies. It drives me insane. I would like to see a season that properly shows us a Quidditch game. I don't even think we ever got to see the Hufflepuff Quidditch team on film.
Didn't.
I don't.
Ravenclaw either, I don't believe.
Yeah, and I want to say I think we saw the Ravenclaw uniforms in the movie, but we never actually got to see them play. It was all Gryffindor.
I think they were, I don't know if they were on the field or something, but I mean, the only ones we ever see play is obviously going to be Gryffindor versus anyone, because you've got to show Harry.
Gryffindor, yeah. But see, that's what I loved the Quidditch stuff. Every time she went into this great, ridiculous detail on Quidditch. I don't know why it fascinated me. Here's the funny thing. Real life sports, I do not give one flying fuck. There is sports trivia I know off the top of my head because I've absorbed it over the years. But other than a couple Super Bowls, really, there's not a lot of sports that I've ever watched the whole game. My dad grew up playing baseball. He played it in college. I have never watched an entire baseball game from beginning to end because why the fuck would you? Terrible.
Same thing. I like sports too. So.
You know, the idea of sports are cool, but I don't watch it. But you know, I don't care. Now, you give me a sports movie or a sports TV show, I'll watch the shit out of that. You know, fictional sports like Quidditch. Look, I couldn't give a shit less about soccer, and it's kind of soccer and hockey and stuff on broomsticks in the air. You know, they combine all this stuff. I don't care about any of that shit. I don't even understand curling and cricket. But like Casey Jones said, you got to know what a crumpet is to understand cricket. But no, that was Raphael. Casey Jones had the cricket bat. I don't give a shit. But fictional stuff, movies like Major League, yeah, I'll watch that. I'm not gonna watch a baseball game. Fuck that. So yeah, the Quidditch stuff. Damn it, I want them to make a Quidditch.
One of the biggest things I would say, and also I think things that were more poignant in the books got missed. So everybody's like, "Oh my God, Dobby passed away." Spoiler if you haven't seen Harry Potter, but who hasn't?
Yeah.
So
that's spoiler alert.
Yeah, I know. So you know, Dobby passing, I think hits home more in the book because he's more in it. They don't ever show him coming and working for Hogwarts. They don't ever show him with what is her name? The other one that got fired.
The other elf or the house elf.
The other house elf, Blinky or
Winky.
Winky. Oh, it's something cute. But yeah, so like that whole dynamic of Dobby being thankful and showing that he's being like resourceful. I think all of that just makes that even more important. And when they cut all that out, everybody's like, "Oh, it's sad." I'm like, you don't know how sad it is. Like, we got much more emotionally invested in him than you did.
Well, the whole house elf thing in the movies was barely a present. Well, Dobby, he's in the second one, obviously. That's where he comes in. That's where he's liberated. The
only real reference other than Creature. And that was the extremes. That's it.
I don't think Dobby shows up again in the movies until 7 when he gets killed. I think it was towards the end of
it's in the
Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Yeah.
So I mean, he dies in the movie end. So, but he wasn't there otherwise. We, like you said, we didn't see him working at Hogwarts.
No, we didn't see any of that sort of behind the scenes of that world. And again, the thing people love about Harry Potter is the depth. It's like Lord of the Rings. It has so much depth to it and has so many little, extra things to it and creatures and stuff like that. And I think that's the one thing you could really delve into that series.
I would honestly like to see a lot more about the 4, the 2 wizards and the 2 witches that inspired. Yeah, the house, the houses, the ones that.
Founders, yeah.
There are, I think there's actors cast as them in the movies. We do see a bit, but we didn't get to see them. We didn't get back. Not really. I mean, and that kind of stuff. Like you said, it's the depth. And it's awesome to read this stuff in the books, but obviously can't do it. But there's a lot more ways that they can get this stuff on the screen now than there used to be. Because if you look at, at the time, all the Harry Potter movies came out and then they were done, and that was going to be it until they made Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And then they made another one, and they're making another one because they're taking that book that was mentioned in the books, and they're making a whole thing. And what they're going to end up doing is showing all this world building that was built into the books that we didn't get to see. Now we get to see it. Yeah. It's just outside of the Harry Potter, but it's in the same. They could spin this shit off forever.
There's enough there's enough desire to have more with it that they could put a lot of money into it and they would gain a lot from it. Like, I mean, look at even they have the parks now, the Wizard World parks that are constantly busy. There's a reason for that. And like I said, I think they could. I think they could even do a movie about the founders. You could do how Hogwarts was founded. You could have
that would be amazing.
Yeah,
I
that
want to
would
see
be
it.
really cool. I mean, there's so much in that world you could do. So yeah, that's that and Lord of the Rings are kind of my I wish there'd be more in this, even more. But
And so you haven't gotten a chance to draw any of those characters then.
no, and Harry Potter.
Man.
I know, and Harry Potter.
Wow.
I know. I wanna do something different for Harry Potter though. So if you look on my page, there's a lot of not suitable for work pinup style as well. So that's kind of how I started. Was I really wanted to do sort of 50s and style vintage pinups mixed with pop culture, and like fandoms. That was sort of my idea. I'm a huge fan of like Gil Elfgren and like the classic 50s pinup artists, because it was a good mixture of being sexy with also like feminine and still not showing everything, and just sort of that. And I was like, what if you put that in sort of like modern fandoms? I just think that's a cool mashup. So I would love to do Harry Potter witches like on brooms and stuff in like a pinup style. I think that would be really, really fun. I think it would translate well too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wow, there's a lot of material to draw on in there.
Lots.
I don't know, could you? Yeah, the other character that really annoyed me was Rita Skeeter. I mean,
yeah.
I don't. Yeah, put her on the bottom of the list. I'm just saying, because
I would like to do a sexier
any more
young.
fucking annoying.
I would like to do a sexy young Bellatrix. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
Like
back before she was awful.
Like when she was
Sirius Black.
Yeah, like when I would love to do sort of like a young, like when she was just coming to being a bad witch. I think that would be fun. I would like to give her sort of that tattoo look. I just think she'd be a fun punk rocky one to do. There's a few females that I'd like to do from that, or again, gender bend some cool characters.
Well, you know what I'd honestly like to see? One of my favorite characters in those books is Nymphadora Tonks. She is in the movies. She had a decent role. She's different than as described in the books, but sure. I thought that adaptation was great, but she didn't have a big enough role. But we find out her backstory and whatever, but we didn't get to see it. But so yeah, I think I would say someday I'm sure you'll draw her, and I'll look forward to seeing your interpretation of her. Yeah, no time soon. The way you're getting requests and commissions, so but yeah, there's so much to draw on in just those two franchises.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
But they're not as popular in terms of artwork. I would say overall for female artwork, like what I do, I would say overall yes, but not for that. I get a lot more superhero requests or G.I. Joe requests, things like that nature. I get more requests of than sort of the fantasy fandom. Star Wars would be the closest I get to that right now of like what's popular.
I think if you did one or two, like if you took one of the Harry Potter characters, and even if you just did one of the, even if you just did, young McGonagall or if you just did and you put it out there, that would get noticed too, and you would have more people looking at your stuff saying, "Ooh, what about all these characters?" I mean, if you drew like a kick-ass Eowyn, like you said, with holding up the head or standing on the head, that would get a lot of attention because there'd be other Tolkien fans who'd be like, "Oh, how come more people don't make these characters into art like this?"
Yeah.
It might just be kind of an untapped niche. It could just be one of those things. You don't see it a lot, but if you started doing it, it would end up getting attention because people would be like, ooh.
Yeah, well, that honestly, the gender bend mutt, I looked it up. I could not find another one. When I did that, I couldn't, because I always try to look it up to see if I've, so I don't want to copy anyone. So I always look to see what's out there, because I don't want to ever, feel like I want to get my own ideas.
Right. You want to make your own mark, and you don't want to do something that everybody's done.
Exactly. So I looked it up and I could not find one.
I've never seen one before you drew that. Like I said, I would have never considered that. Now I'm wondering what some of these more obscure characters, like the guy named Metalhead. He's nuts. He's certifiable. But he shoots missiles out of launchers on his back, and he is absolutely deranged, and just likes to blow shit up. I've never imagined what would a female version of that look like, but now I'm like, well, I've seen Mutt. I wonder what Metalhead would look like.
My first guess is what he would look like.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said Bellatrix Lestrange would be my first guess is what he would look like.
That is not a bad. Did you see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
Yes.
Okay, the way they did Doc Ock, yeah, it'd be a little bit of that too. She's actually, I like that movie, and I really like that version of Doc Ock. So yeah, they really changed it up there. He's not one I'd ever seen gendered. So yeah, there's a whole lot of Joe characters you could do with me, and like you said, like Brian said, he's already done a couple Cobra Trooper variations that they've never had females in the toy line, but it's cool to see that kind of stuff. I really that's why it's kind of cool, because a friend of ours named Sean, a lot of times he'll take characters from other properties like Inspector Gadget, the entire Scooby Gang. He's done, and he brings them into a more realistic world, and he fits them into this multiverse with G.I. Joe characters and various movie characters and comic book characters and even like TV characters. And he has this whole big shared universe thing, and it is overwhelming trying to read all of it. I don't know how he keeps it all straight, honestly, but yeah, he does. He brings these characters in that I wouldn't expect. He made a human version of Danger Mouse to go with the rest of his G.I. Joe and Mission and spy movie characters. So yeah, I never imagined what human Danger Mouse would look like until then. So just like I never imagined what Mutt would look like if he was a she. So yeah, I like seeing these kind of creative things that really do go outside the lines, and that is best.
Well, and then there's a spinoff of that where I'm starting to get requests for crossovers of like, one was like, can you do Harley Quinn as Baroness?
Holy shit. Can you imagine what a psycho she'd be? Oh my God.
Like that kind of stuff where you meld two characters, which I'm all about as well. So it can go on forever in terms of like where that could go. So when someone's like, "Oh, you've already done Baroness," I'm like, I can do her again, I promise. Like,
well, because I pointed out there's that version of the Baroness, the figure that came out where she's wearing blue, like Cobra Blue, and you've never seen it before.
And I was like, that's awesome, because it is hard. I will say this, Baroness is very difficult in terms of color palette. Because
I can imagine.
Black on black on black on black, and it's just so much that you have to get so many variations of that. It is one of the hardest to do in terms of color palette.
I'm always impressed by comic book artists that draw Darth Vader, and they draw him a lot, like issue after issue, page after page. And I'm always impressed because I'm like, first of all, the armor is wacky. So that's got to be, I mean, there's plenty of art of Vader that I've seen that I don't like it. It doesn't look enough like Vader, whatever. But I'm like, at least they tried to draw Vader. That shit. But yeah, he's all black clothes, crazy armor. He's huge, and he's supposed to be kind of mysterious and scary looking. And yeah, some of these artists, they just keep going with it. And characters wearing all black, like, so yeah, I could see it.
It's hard to get variation in it sometimes, and getting reflections and putting reflections and stuff just to get color. Is like Baroness wearing that sort of, latexy outfit, you're gonna get shine. So you're able to put some color, because whenever you get near something, if you're wearing something shiny,
Light source, yeah.
you're gonna get that light source. So I try to add that, but sometimes it's difficult when you're just using black all over to get enough variation where it doesn't look like it's all one piece. So that's been a hard challenge. So when you showed me the blue outfit, I was like, I'm gonna take note of that, because that would be good if someone wants that character, be like, do you like this outfit? Because this will make it totally different.
She's got a real cool red one too, red and silver.
Oh, she does.
That would be cool.
Yeah, she does. I forgot about the crimson repaint of her.
Well,
cool.
and I did that. I did that. The dive equipment one of her recently. I did her the eel color scheme for that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was
cool.
I
based mine off pre-existing art, so I mean it was not my idea. So,
one of my favorite TV shows. There's a character that uses the word "great writers are inspired by, other great writers," or I mean, good writers are inspired by others. Great writers just steal outright the word. So,
Yeah, I think you
get the inspiration where you get the inspiration.
Oh,
yeah. I think the quote originally, well, I've seen that it's not, but it's from Salvador Dali that says, good artists create, great artists steal.
Wait, did you say that's not actually his quote?
Yeah, I've seen that it may not be attributed to him, but most of the time it's attributed to Salvador Dali.
But you know what? Here's the thing. That's another case of somebody's always got shit to say. Somebody's always got to put. You know what? He probably did say it, but some of the people that
73% of quotes on the internet are made up on the spot.
Exactly, so. They're bullshit. But I just tend to think that an accomplished artist like that probably did say it. But the people that didn't like his art, didn't like him, didn't approve, detractors, they probably fudged some things, and they said, well, no, it's a great quote. We can't credit him. Fuck that guy. That's why things get twisted. But
yeah, well, I was going to segue with that, as in like the art stuff. Is one of the questions that I was going to ask is what got you into art in general?
Yes.
So it's the stereotypical. I think every artist is like, I've always been into it, but it's true. I mean, I've always been creative. If I'm gonna spend money, when I was younger, it was gonna be on art supplies or something creative in general. In terms of professionally, I technically have a degree in art. I went to a humanities school, so it wasn't really an art degree in terms of like an art design degree, but it was just a fine arts general degree. And I didn't really know what I was going to do with it, because I honestly didn't think I was good enough to do anything with it, to be completely honest. And then it was kind of frowned upon to do fan art when you're in school for art. They don't really look at it.
I can see that.
They don't look at it the same way. So I was like kind of hid that. I was like, I'm not going to show any of that. Like, I'm going to do what the cool artists do, which is your, own stuff. And so I kind of hid it and was like, I don't know if I'm gonna do anything with it. I'll probably just work for a museum or something like that. And got out of school, and then life circumstances just inspired me to make something of my life, I guess. And I was like, if I'm not gonna do it here, when am I gonna do it? And just started putting out my own stuff, and got a good response. So I was like, all right, that works. Let's keep doing that then. So
you gotta go. Yeah, because of course the professionals, especially the academic ones, they're not going to approve of your creative drawing. Don't do that. Fuck that. Right. You'll never sell.
So what mediums do you work in right now?
So I used to work fully in acrylic painting. That was my start to everything. And then now I've switched completely to, because inking was like a whole new thing for me. Comic book. I got a mentor in this industry who actually works for Marvel. I lucked out. So he's been sort of mentoring me and helping me grow in this and teaching me things. And he was like, hey, you need to switch from acrylic to something else. So he kind of
I think we JD there, but keep going.
Okay. He kind of told me, hey, you should try inking, you should try copics, which are markers, you should try more of the standard field, I guess, with comic books. And so then I just started doing that, and I haven't picked up acrylic in a while. So now I pretty much fully do pencil, ink, and Copic color. That's pretty much all I do.
Cool. Yeah, I don't have an art degree, but I got into it in high school, and
Awesome.
I'm still in touch with my photography teacher from high school.
That's cool.
Yeah. So what's your favorite medium to use then?
That's hard. I mean, I love what I'm doing right now. I think I'm so new to it that I still have a sort of like honeymoon phase with Copic markers where I'm discovering more and more things I like about it. I love the blendability of it. It's very similar to paint, so I think that's why I changed very easily over. Just because
I've never used the Copic markers. I've been curious about that.
Yeah,
I don't know what they are, so don't feel bad.
They're alcohol-based markers. They're artist grade, so they're like the highest price one you can get.
Right.
But the great thing about them is they're refillable, so you can refill the marker, and they're a lot more reasonable when you refill them. But the thing is, the alcohol allows the colors to blend pretty seamless. So that's whenever you see Copic art, it's even if it's 4 colors, it looks so nice and like a gradient. That's why it's just it's an awesome medium, and it's easy to do with the classic comic book style of inking and penciling. It fits really well because the ink doesn't blend into the marker. So if you ever see marker art in the comic book realm, usually it's Copic because those are just the highest grade you can get.
Gotcha. And I'm guessing the color pencils are Prismacolor?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually started using that, and I got on this kick of watercolor pencils because I discovered that the alcohol is treated like water with it, and it actually will give it enough consistency to like work the same way. Yeah. So if I quickly use it, if I want something really blended in, I'll use the Copic, and while it's still wet, I'll go in with a watercolor, and it just bleeds right through and gives it that nice sort of just soft effect. So I've actually done both. I use watercolors during, and then after I'll finish with Prismacolor.
Gotcha. Yeah, I still got my Prismacolor set somewhere, but.
Oh yeah, Prismacolor. I've heard people say, "Oh, I like this one better." I'm like, I think it's what you like working with. For me, it works best for me.
Excellent. Hang on a sec here. JD, go ahead. I got something here I got to take care of.
All right. So, if as you've been taking requests from people and commissions from people to draw specific comic book characters, I mean, okay, now you've been getting requests from people to draw certain characters, or you're taking commissions, you're learning about new comic book characters. Like you said, you got to go research, you got to figure out, what these characters look like by other artists. Did you ever read comic books before, or is that just something that came from your art?
So I have a pretty good back knowledge of Marvel.
Okay.
So actually, I grew up. I have a brother, so I grew up around comic books. So I actually have an entire collection of like the 90s X-Men like trading cards and stuff.
Oh shit.
I grew up with
I collected the shit out of those.
I grew up with like that cartoon and stuff. So I would say I have more overall like actual comic book knowledge of Marvel, but I do know some things about DC as well.
Okay, so wait, you're talking about the 90s X-Men cartoon, right? Yeah. Because now that I've said that, everybody who's listening, that theme song is totally stuck in their head right now. You're welcome. So who are your favorite artists? Like your favorite comic book artists? Like the ones that no matter what they draw, you like looking at it. And who are the ones that you think I like their, like you're a fan now, but not so much when because tastes change over time. There's things you grow up not being into and then you like it later. And there's things you used to like that you look at as an adult, you're like, what the fuck? That's me with John Romita Jr. Fuck that guy. I didn't mind him when I was a kid. He sucks now.
Don't get me started.
I was trying to bait Brian into that, by the way.
Not gonna touch that.
I got
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, he hates his art far more than I ever could.
Well, I hate JD because
so.
he's met my favorite artist, and so is my wife.
I got his favorite artist. I met him at a convention, and I got him to do this short little video address to, like he said to Brian, "Oh, you're out of the country, so your friend has to, get this message from you." It was funny. But yeah. So who are your favorite comic book artists? Like,
So yeah, I don't know about like who I didn't like then or like now I didn't like. I don't know if I've.
I was just curious if you.
Yeah,
I was just curious if you.
There's certain ones I think I categorize it by ones that I enjoy as just a fan, and then ones that as like an artist I enjoy. I think those kind of are different. So
I got you.
One of the newer ones that I enjoy looking at, but I don't necessarily like for my own art style, is obviously J. Scott Campbell with Marvel.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's feminine art. It's a lot of females. I really like that. I don't necessarily know if it's something I look at for style's sake, but I appreciate what he does with, especially like
Right.
Mary Jane,
You mean
and Black Cat.
You don't take inspiration from it, but it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it as a comic fan. I guess I like that. One of the artists. It's not really I don't know if you consider a comic artist. She's in comic books, but she does things with Zenoscope and Coffin Comics and a few others. Is
if they draw comics, then they're comic artists.
Okay.
As far as I'm
concerned. Yeah, she's a cover artist, but Dawn Mateague or Matag, however you want to pronounce it. She's probably, if you look at my art and then look at hers, you could definitely see the inspiration. She's my biggest, I guess, inspiration idol. I actually talk to her all the time. She does Twitch streams and stuff, and she's very accessible to artists. She'll tell you how to do stuff. She's all about like teaching. I actually met her at a Comic-Con, and she's super nice. And it's so weird when you meet your idol and then you're like, oh, they're normal, but I still gonna idolize you. So she's definitely my biggest inspiration. All the classic, artists in general. I'm trying to think like, Jim Lee, all the main ones. Obviously, I'm gonna love them just as a comic book fan, but I would say of artists, Dawn Mateague, and then my mentor right now is Dominic Glover, and he does some projects with them, and I really obviously love his stuff since he's my mentor. So.
I am an avowed lifelong fan of Rob Liefeld. I do not care what people say about his art. That shit always lights my fire. I don't know why. I don't care. I see all the flaws that people point out. I could not give one rat's ass. I love that guy's art, and I don't give a fuck even if I was the only fan, but I clearly wasn't, because holy shit, he started drawing comics for Marvel that nobody really cared about anymore, and suddenly, holy shit, he's at all kinds of sales records. So somebody liked his damn art. Shut up, hater. See, somebody always got some shit to say. But yeah,
I think things that some people consider flaws is style. Some people have different style, and that's okay. It's not, I don't like I said, I don't really hate on any. I'm trying to think if there's any I hate. There's some that I like more than others, but yeah.
Well, when it comes to comic art, I tend to like kind of the more eye-catching stuff, the little more exaggerated, more. When it comes to comic book art that's like super like gritty and realistic, it doesn't appeal to me in terms of, the story could be great, but sometimes if the art's just not jiving with me, I have trouble reading it. And then there's times where I can overlook it, but I'm not a big fan of Frank Whiteley's art. He was working on New X-Men with Grant Morrison. No matter what, I tried to read it. I'm like, I don't like this art. I like Grant Morrison's writing run on JLA for DC. But when he moved to the X-Men, I fucking hate that book. I didn't like the story, didn't like the art, didn't like any of it. And I grew up with the mutant books. That was my thing all the way through my teenage years, I swear to God. But then, that stuff comes along, and I'm like, not so much anymore. you know, and then ever since then, I tried to go back, but I'm like, no, I just don't care that much anymore. It's too expansive. Of course, comics nowadays with their look, I like comic book crossovers. When I was a kid, I had a bunch of them. Maximum Carnage was amazing, but not fucking everything has to be a event crossover thing now. I don't even think there are individual books that anybody publishes anymore. It all bleeds into the next story arc. It's insane.
Yeah.
People always bitch, how come they're always rebooting these comic books and starting over at number one? Because at some point after like 10 issues, you can't get new readers into it anymore because suddenly there's 8 million hours of research that they need to do. So you got to start fresh. I mean, sorry, but you just too far down the rabbit hole sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so you're yeah, it's funny because I can't. A lot of times I'll look at people's art and you know I'll especially when it's something new and different, you know, or done in a way that I haven't really. Sometimes I'll get curious and I'm like, I should ask about a commission, but I tend to end up not so much doing it because they're going to ask you, what do you want me to draw? And I'm suddenly not going to be able to decide. And, you know, there's only so much room on the walls for art. You know, I can't.
That's what books are for.
Yeah, I've got a book that I
True.
keep my convention art in.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I she's like, I was going to put all the stuff up on the walls, but I'm like, I'm out of room for stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, why don't we get a book for it all? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good idea. So
Nice.
you've got like a coffee table book size that's just art that we've collected at the conventions that we go to.
I tell people it's a cool way to do it because then you can eventually have themed books. You can have like Marvel or G.I. Joe or whatever your theme is. And then it's like you have these really cool coffee table books for people when they come over to look through. So
that's a good idea. Mine is Iron Man.
Okay.
He is the Iron Whore.
I was looking at the shirt. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't ever decide. Some days it's Pepper Potts, some days it's Gender Bent Iron Man. So
a little bit of both.
Yeah, both.
To me, all I'm seeing is Samus Aran from Metroid wearing Iron Man's armor. I can't keep looking. I'm like, yep, it's Samus. It's awesome.
I was going to segue then into, let's talk about, if you would like to, what your commission rate is. So if somebody wants art from you, how do they get in touch with you? What do you tell us about what you, let's say, plug yourself here?
Okay. That's a good way to put it.
Brag about yourself.
It's hard to plug myself, but yeah. So there's a few different ways you can go about it. If you just want a commission, there's Facebook is a really easy way. Lauren Wright, or Art of Lauren Wright is my sort of business page. Honestly, I post more on my personal page that has turned into a business page for me. So if you go there, just find my other page, you're probably going to get me faster. I also have an Instagram, which is Lauren Wright Artist. So at Lauren Wright, LAURENWRIGHT Artist. Any of those, you can private message me. I always tell people I don't always see every comment. So if you like comment under something, it'll pop up like way later. I'm like, oh man, I missed this. Private messaging me is always the quickest way to get where I can see it. In terms of rates, the basic way I can describe it without sending someone, I always send people a price chart that breaks down sizes and like what their options are. But the basic range you're looking at right now for 2020, you're looking at around 100 to 300 depending on what you're wanting. So basic is like chest up, like sort of like the Lady J on my page, and Cover Girl, that's kind of like a stylized pinup bust version. That's sort of your basic, and then it goes all the way up to full body with full color and, you know, adding background and all of that. So it's ranges depending on size. Sizes are usually the typical comic book size, like 9 by 12, 11 by 17. I can do blanks as well. Some people have asked me about comic blanks. I did not know there was a G.I. Joe one. Found that out. That there's a G.I. Joe comic blank, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So that's one. Also that I can do blanks in that price range as well. And then I also just started a Patreon too. So if people look on my page and they like more of the pinup sort of arts, the not suitable for work, that range, if they go on to my Patreon, which is Patreon/Lauren Wright, that actually has a subscription where you will get a free print of the month, and it's sort of like a pinup print. So I just started that as well, which will have different kind of art on there. So I think that's everything.
All right, good deal.
Yeah.
And then what's your turnaround time? I know people are going to ask that because that's why I don't take commissions anymore.
Yeah, right now, I'm not too like booked. I'm not saying that in like a, oh, please book me, but just I would say what right now trend is going around max 2 weeks, 2, 3.
That's not good at all.
No, so within a month, so I can go and say this too. So I only do female characters, or gender bend, anything that can go to female. That's not a stance on anything. That is, I prefer to do females. I want to build my catalog of what I do, and I want it to fine tune. So that's just a personal choice. But I'll do gender bends, anything in that. I will not do currently. I'm not taking like original characters. So like a character you created that's not, that's like not in the universe of anything. And that's just also, people ask me, why don't you? It honestly is just because you have something in your head that you're trying to translate to me, and then I'm trying to translate to paper. A lot gets lost in that. There's so many questions I can ask about something that's in your head. So
here, I always see, now I play Dungeons and Dragons, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm in groups for Facebook on it, and a lot of times artists will go in and they will have taken a commission from somebody who asked them if they could draw their D&D character, since for whatever reason they can't, either they can't draw them, so they want to. But I can't imagine the artist, the amount of communication they would have to do with this person requesting this picture to make sure that the character reflects A, everything in the role player's head, and B, doesn't get so insanely nuanced that they suddenly don't have time to be drawing anything else because I'd just be worried about taking a commission and somebody getting so vehement about it that you'd be like, I don't want to draw it anymore.
No, exactly. It's a
I did that once. I took somebody wanted their original character turned into an action figure, and
never again.
Never again. And I've got a guy that wants me to do card backs for his figures, and it's all original stuff, and I'm like, here, this is what I got. I mean, what do you like this? Do you don't? I've been kind of avoiding taking
really difficult. People don't realize, they're like, oh, you're an artist, you should just be able to do that. And it's like, no, that's
not how that works.
Right.
There's already so many questions. Like when you commission, let's just take Iron Man, for instance, because that's the one in my head right now. If you're like, I want a gender bend Iron Man, I'm going to ask you then a series of questions involving size, background. Do you care about hair length? Do you care about this kind of suit versus this kind of suit? There's so many.
Got 100 different armors.
There's 100 questions that I already have to ask, and then if you're gonna do that, plus it being a character that I have no reference for at all, it's just too complicated, and my prices would have to go through the roof for the amount of time it would take me. But then I wouldn't be, accessible to people. So
right.
That one, and the other one I don't take that I get a lot of flack for is I don't do likeness characters. So
I don't blame you at all.
When I was a fine artist, like fine artist is in like normal art, I did likeness portraits of dogs, and I did likeness portraits of people, and I can do them, but I don't like to do them.
Yeah.
Same reason. So if you're like, two ways. I want, let's say this version A, I want Leia to look like Carrie Fisher. Too much pressure because there's so much space on a page, and people, you can change one little tiny thing and it doesn't look like that person anymore.
Right.
So again, takes too much time. And then the second way is people saying, I want my son in an Iron Man outfit. I won't do that either, because what you think your son looks like is different than what I think your son looks like. And
Exactly.
it's too personal, and people get mad that I'm like, I just don't like that kind of pressure with art. I have fun with it. There's enough pressure on myself to be a good artist. There's people that do that and they solely do that, and that's great, and they're great artists at it, but it's not where I want to go with my art. So that's the only one. There's, like I said, people get really upset that I don't do that, but I'm like, no, I'm sorry.
I hear you. I was a professional portrait photographer for one day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, nope. If I stay at this, I will absolutely hate photography. I mean, I spent half the money I earned in Afghanistan on camera gear. I've shot all over the world. I've got my own website. It's like, I do not want to hate this. I've got too much invested. It's too important to me.
Yep.
And I'm like, no, I'm out.
Yep.
See,
so personable.
I don't draw. I don't paint. I don't do any of that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I love tattoos, and I watch Ink Master on TV. And
I love Ink Master.
Yeah, I am a complete devotee of that show. And one of my you mentioned things like likenesses and all that. And all I can think is every single time Ink Master does bring the photograph in of your family member, have the artist do the fucking tattoo it, and it's always a shit show. And it isn't because
I've never seen it. I'm gonna have to watch that. It's
terrible.
When I say shit show, it is not because that the tattoo that was done on the person, in most cases it's really not truly awful. It just doesn't meet the criteria, because those artists have like 6 hours to do a tattoo that in their own shop they would want to take 3 sessions to get it right.
Right.
And one of the other things that I always laugh about, because every time they have, let's do the snake day on Ink Master, it is a car wreck, because apparently, this is what I've learned, drawing snakes is hard, making pictures of snakes is hard, because if you want it to be realistic, there's a whole lot of detail that you can fuck up.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with these portraits, trying to get, every time somebody wants the picture, the portrait of their kid tattooed on their shoulder, the kid, it does not end up looking like the kid, because
and the things you like about your kid, like, oh, he's got a snaggle tooth and I love that and all that, it's great. But the thing about art is, when you put it now on Iron Man's body, it's not going to look right, because you're putting something that in proportion, even though it's adorable in person in a picture, does not translate to a drawing. There's a reason artists forever, since the dawn of time, have done ideal bodies or, beautiful faces. It's not just because, oh, that's what's around. It's because that's pleasing to look at. And it's very hard to translate, oh, that snaggle tooth to something that doesn't look like you just messed up on the picture. So yeah, it's just too much pressure.
The picture of your kid is cute. The kid's adorable. Clearly, the kid is a little ball of sunshine and adorable no matter what they do. And it's true. I know I've got 2 kids, and I'm all kinds of, they are ridiculous. They annoy the shit out of me. I love everything about them. I would never want somebody to paint their portrait, because then I'd be like, but that's because art is truly in the eye of the beholder. Everybody sees shit differently.
Absolutely.
So the adorable little Muppet that you brought the picture in, and you got you wanted a portrait done, the artist is going to see it differently. And if you give them, if there's too many details that they miss, or they feel pressure, they're going to end up fucking it up. And honestly, some of those tattoos end up looking like Chucky, and that's not cool, because that kid is cute, but the tattoo is scary.
And I have a lot of guys saying, can you turn my wife into such and such? And here's the problem with that.
Don't do that.
I know, because I'm like, all right, this can be taken a million ways. If I just give her a chest size this much bigger because I think it looks good for this picture, she could get offended.
Yeah.
She could get, like, women, we are very particular about our body. She might be saying you're saying something about her body.
Exactly.
What if she's not a skinny person but wants to be in a Black Widow suit?
Right.
Like there's a reason those are ideal body types, because that's a superhero body type. There's only so much I can do. So yeah, I just learned that was a can of worms I was not going to get into, and I was like, nope, I do my own versions of those characters. I will take anything under consideration in terms of, I want this outfit instead of this one. If I have photo reference for it, by all means, or I can have artistic liberty, all those kind of things I'll take into consideration, but not like, I want this to look like so and so. I just learned the hard way. And same thing with, like, it's the same idea as the original characters, because there's just too much pressure on me figuring out exactly what you want, and there's no way that you're going to be specific enough to where I can see it and give you the exact thing that's in your brain. There's just no way.
As a media or as a style, I'm not a fan of caricature. I don't, whatever.
Yeah, no.
But I'm, of course it's all about some exaggeration, and you take certain features and you make it stylized. And I'm not a fan, because a lot of times I look at it and I'm just like, it's just goofy. I mean, like, it's cool and cute if you know the person, but if you don't know the person and you look at a caricature, what do you see? It kind of looks like somebody that doesn't actually know how to draw people. But I understand.
Somebody that knows how to draw but was trying to be insulting.
Yeah.
Exactly. But see, I understand the appeal of why caricature artists would want to focus on caricature, because there you go. There's somebody, they're asking you to draw their family member, and you're not, and it's not supposed to be remotely realistic or accurate.
Exactly.
So yeah, like, I totally, like, if I ever wanted to get like a photograph of somebody who would, but I think I'd actually tell the artist, you know what, if you want to change it up a little bit and make it capture the essence of the person. Because look at those old black and white photographs people try to tattoo on that show. They end up looking like muddy and washed out. It's tough to get a real likeness. So yeah, it's just,
and there's ways to do it. Like I said, I used to do them, and I think they were pretty accurate and never had complaints about that. It's just, that's not where I want to focus my time. The amount of time and energy it takes to get something to look like someone is like, it takes all of the air out of the creativity part.
Oh, yeah.
Then I'm stuck in one pose, or I'm stuck in this or that. There's already so much you're limited to, especially if I have I don't mind picky clients. Usually they're some of my favorites because I know exactly what they want. They don't just say, whatever you want. Like, sometimes that can get overwhelming if the character has a lot of outfits, like, for instance, Iron Man or something like that. It's like, oh God, what am I going to pick? But if it's something that, like, I want this outfit, and you could do whatever for this, but I want that. Sometimes specifics are good, but when you start getting into the realm of, this person, and I want this jaw to be like this, and it just, like I said, just gets.
I find that the parallel between the type of art that you do and the type of art that JD and I do, very similar, because, as I say a lot of times, it comes down to the head sculpt.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done customs of the Dukes of Hazzard, and those were custom designed heads of the actors. I've done a bunch of Schwarzenegger customs, again, custom built heads.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the likeness of the head that makes that custom. People are like, hey, can you make this? I'm like, no, because I don't have a head for it.
Yeah.
And see, I avoid making things like that, because there'd be an expectation on myself to try to achieve a certain level of realism to make it recognizable, where now I can't. I'm like, I wouldn't be able to pull it off, and I don't want to see myself try, because, sometimes you knock into the glass on the counter and you see it shatter long before it falls off the counter. Same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna paint a toy to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger from a certain movie because it ain't gonna look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I might change so much shit during the design process. Might not end up looking like it's from that movie.
Yeah.
See, those are some of
So,
my favorite customs to make because I like to make the more
well, see,
realistic stuff.
and I love
It's got to come down to the head sculpt.
see, I love seeing the customs, the creations that people make based on. Like, it's always awesome when Brian does those things because I simply I can't, and I wouldn't try. Whereas, if I was to take if I was trying to do like he did one of the Mission Impossible characters, and I think he's doing another one. But my question is always, well, are you making the entire rest of the cast? No, he's fucking not, and I know he's not. But it makes me want to see what he would do with the rest of the. Like,
Right.
He doesn't have that kind of time. I mean, every Mission Impossible movie has two characters that carry over. Well, now I think there's three, and everybody else changes. Of course, he can't do all that shit. But yeah, it's always cool when people try. Like sometimes I'll see people take pictures, like their action figures, and they repaint them to make it look like real life. So, like I've seen these Superman and Batman figures that have passable likenesses out of the package if they look at all. But people repaint them, and somehow with just paint, they'll manage to make it look like the actor that played him in the movie on this toy. And I'm just like, how do you get that much life into a paint job?
I wish I could paint that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm like, well, Brian texted me earlier. He's like, fuck, I hate painting eyes. I'm like, me too. That's why I just don't. I choose not to repaint the faces so I don't have to repaint the eyes. I've done it a few times. Can do it. Will not voluntarily do it. I don't want to. It's just certain shit that, no. But, yeah, I mean, art is so much about the artist and what they put into it. It's sometimes the outside, like you said, they're always asking, well, you're an artist, you should be able to. No, you can't specialize in everything. And just being an artist doesn't mean that you're capable of doing all art styles ever. Like, you know what? I swear to God, people that say that kind of, they just don't understand art. They're not understanding the point of it, I guess.
Well, my thing is, there's somebody out there who does exactly what you're looking for, and it will not offend me at all if you go to that person. Like, if someone says, like, oh, well, I wanted to help you out as an artist. I was like, I appreciate that. And believe me, I appreciate you reaching out. But, at the end of the day, I will give you my recommendations if I know someone who does that, like severe action pose type art. It's amazing. My mentor does that kind of art. I'm never going to do that kind of art. That's just not my style. Doesn't mean I don't appreciate that, or doesn't mean that I don't, send people to him when they're like, hey, I want, so-and-so battling, so-and-so and doing this. I'm like, you know what, go to this person. They're great at that. But that's what he specializes in. It's the same as anyone doing any field of work. You specialize in something, and you would be disappointed in all these artists if they didn't, honestly, because then we're spread so thin that we don't put so much time into that one medium or that one style. You don't become the artist that you're loving. So
right. Exactly.
You
can't.
When they see your price list, that's the other problem that I've run into.
Oh, all the time. Yeah. They run away. Oh, for sure. Yeah. But I strategically, I made mine right now. It's technically my almost second year, 1.5 year doing this like full time professionally. Mm-hmm. And so I looked at my prices. My prices are on the lower end of anybody based on the amount of hours it takes me. So it's not the lowest, but it's also, if you look at my work, it's been pretty consistent with style. It's been consistent with the amount of detail. So, to me, it's like you can go to a lower artist and that's totally fine. Maybe they're running a special, or, maybe they have different circumstances than I do, or maybe they have, whatever reason they have, they have every right to price their art the way they do. But a lot of times when the lower prices, you are going to get some some really good art and some really bad art, or you're going to get more of that, wishy-washy, don't know what it's going to look like. So I pride myself that my prices are pretty reasonable for what I give and the amount of time it takes. And, people get mad about, oh, that's too expensive for a piece of paper. I'm like, you're not paying for the paper. You're
Right.
paying for your idea to come to life. And if you're not going to pay for that, that's fine. Go spend $100 at Starbucks or whatever it is that makes you happy. I never pressure anyone, but I'm also not going to alter my prices to a great degree to fit other people, because when you start doing that and you start playing, oh, well, they're can you work with me? And then you keep lowering it, you're lowering your value. And you also, to me, you're also cheating the people that were willing to pay that much for that art. And I think to me, that's a greater disservice, because when people are willing to pay it, I think you have to say, okay, nope, this is my value and it only goes up from here. So, if somebody's not okay with that, that's okay. There's other art out there for them.
Well, you know how sometimes a retail store, you'll go and you'll buy something, you'll look at the sales catalog that next weekend, and God damn it, that thing is on sale for 20% less than I paid. Well, there's a reason why the stores have a policy that if you bring your receipt in and you add, they'll usually give you, it's not a whole, they might give some kind of price difference, or, because, that's kind of a reward for the person who was willing to pay for the full price versus the people that, there's a long running joke in the online G.I. Joe toy collecting community that no matter what the fans scream about wanting, when it comes right down to it,
they won't pay for it.
More often than not, the running joke used to be back when G.I. Joe was in the stores a few years ago, before, that now there's not a toy line right now, but for a long time, the discount merchandise chain, Ross, sometimes they would get older stock of G.I. Joe stuff it's a year or two older. The other stores had it. They don't have it anymore. Well, Ross got it, and they charged half the price. And the joke was, oh, you're one of the wait for Ross people. Like, you want it. You want it so bad, but you're not going to buy it at full price, but, oh, you'll buy it at the discount store. But then you bitch about,
It's the same thing in the Star Wars community. They
oh, God.
Instead of the wait for Ross, it's wait for it to go on clearance at Target.
Yeah.
See, I'm a big believer in the adage that nobody hates Star Wars quite as much as Star Wars fans do. Because, goddamn, I swear to God, as a culture, are we really just never happy with anything? Because, but again, it comes down to he's always got something to say.
Yeah, well, with the whole toy waited for this, the other thing with art is people I don't think really realize is Amazon screwed artists in a lot of ways, because now people are used to, I can get this now, I can get this cheaper, and I can get this tomorrow for
100%
quality, and that, I think that killed a lot of things. Like, wait, why can't I have this right now? Well, why is this costing this much when I see something over here? Everything being so instantaneous now, and being so oh, I'm just going to search on Amazon for the exact same item, has made people, I think, not understanding of, original art. And
well, you should say that. I've said the same thing. I get a request almost daily for a commission. I'm like, I don't take commissions anymore. I'm sorry. And then why not? Well, I'm out of the country 6 months out of the year. It's just what I can.
Yeah.
And when I'm home, I want to customize for myself.
Yeah.
So because if I still took commissions, and then it's like, okay, I took your commission, but guess what? I got to go back to work, and I'll be there for 2 months.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to get to this until I get home, and then it's going to take me a month to do it. You're not going to see it for 4 months.
Yeah.
But I want the money.
Even somebody waiting, I've had people less than a week from doing a commission say, hey, I send a pencil sketch when I'm done, so that way if you want to alter anything, I could go and alter it before I ink. because I don't want to ink and color it. And then you're like, man, I just wish that arm was moved over slightly, and then I have to start completely over. So I give them that opportunity before that. And every time I'm like, I get a lot of people who are like, oh, it's, been a few days, or where's my sketch? And I'm like, it's been 3 days. You were not my first commission. Your deposit means you're now next in my line, but there's 3 other people in front of you. I'll work as fast as I can. And I mean, it's my full-time job. So I work at least 8 hours a day on my business in some kind of capacity. So and usually a lot more than that. If I have something that's due, I'll stay up all night if it means I've got to get it done.
Right.
But people, I think now with this instantaneous Amazon, they're like, wait, why do I have to pay for shipping? Well, because you're not getting a package from a warehouse. You're getting an original piece of art that needs to be backed and protected, and you need a signature, because you would hate for that to be stolen because it's original. I can't reproduce that to some degree. There's just a lot of factors in there that I think people are like, oh, well, I can get it cheaper elsewhere. And I get it, and that's cool. But I like to think eventually the people that really understand are the ones that stick around, and there's enough of a community of fans that get that and are respectful of it, that I just kind of don't really think about that too much in terms of, like, if they look at my prices and get scared away, then that's okay. I'm totally cool with that. But I'm not going to charge someone half the price for something, that someone just bought 2 days ago because it's uncomfortable for that one person. I'm very respectful of everyone has a budget too. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, it's only $10 more or it's only $20 more. I'm very respectful of that too. Everyone has a budget, but then come to me when you have money for that art, and so that way you can enjoy it more, not thank God I spent all this money on, this piece of art when I needed to pay bills. It's like,
not your fault. That's not your fault. You took the commission, but they didn't have to send you money.
Have you ever done something so cool that you hated to send it out the door?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Those old custom swaps sometimes where, we'd decide we'd pick a name and make a thing that somebody wanted us to make. And then a couple times there was one, and I like this so fucking much, I don't want to send it. There was one time where I did actually start a second one that I thought it might come out the same, but I'm not going to like it as much, so I can keep the one I just made. But then I end up feeling guilty because I take forever anyways. Then I'm like, God damn it. Fine, I'll send the one I really like and I'll make my own.
It's different for you guys, though, because you have a physical, you can't really you have to reproduce it all together. The good thing about mine is I can scan it. Yeah. And I can always print for myself, which I've done, make a really good print. And so it's not the same. I do think there's something to the original, obviously. That's always getting better, but I have a little piece of it still. So I don't think it's the same for artists that work on paper. We kind of have something in terms of.
Well, now my daughter, she draws all the time. Like,
we have a drawing of on the fridge.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's one of the things that she drew. Yeah, I sent it to you. Yeah, she draws fantasy creatures and
It's still on the fridge.
Awesome. Yeah, see, that's awesome. Yeah. She likes all these fantastical creatures and mythological stuff, and she'll draw these things, and she's got these characters that she creates and she draws, and I absolutely love looking at her art. But when she started out, it was on notebook paper, and then she graduated to, regular paper, and then she started painting with watercolor paints and all that kind of stuff. Well, now, but then she got a phone that had this drawing program on it, so she's got all these options that she can do. She can basically turn she does the whole drawing on there, and then she sends it off to people. Well, before. There was one point when I told her, I need you to draw something, some kind of creature, I don't know, whatever, because I want to put it on my desk at work. And she said, well, what kind of creature? And well, she was drawing these fantastical looking furry fox things for a while. They have names I just can't remember right now. What is it, kitsune? Yeah, that was it. So I said a vaguely kitsune looking fox, but I kind of wanted it to be like moonlight, like lunar themed, and just some kind of, but so she drew. It's a fox with bow and arrow, and in like a purple jumpsuit sitting on a crescent moon, and it's on my desk at work, and I absolutely love it. But I used to like I'd bother her something. I'm like, "Did you start my drawing yet?" She's like,
Yeah.
"No, but you asked yesterday." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yes, I know. I'm just giving you shit." But it ended up, she ended up taking a while with it, but I'm not going to bug her because I get it. I got a custom I'm working on that Brian keeps asking, done with that? No, not yet, but I'm getting there because if I get a creative burst, I'm working on it. If I don't, I'm not. But yeah,
Well,
so
Custom yet? Are you done with it yet?
almost. Shut up. No, I'm done with 2 of them. I'm working on the 3rd one.
well, it's different if you take commissions. Like, so
Yeah.
for me, like,
yeah,
for
fuck
me, it's
that.
commission. Yeah, commissions take priority for me. There's a list, and I spend X amount of hours. But I just explained to somebody the other day. They're like, "Oh, but was that a commission you just finished or something?" I guess they're being a smart aleck. And I was like, "No, that was not. That was for my Patreon print, which is the same amount of energy has to go to that because I'm a print club. That's somebody waiting for that too. They technically didn't commission it, but they pay a monthly subscription.
Yeah, you're getting money to
Yeah.
put it.
So I always balance it. I say, look, I spend X amount of time every day on. People don't realize social media. I had someone the other day, like, the amount of people that I've been asking, which please don't take this the wrong way. I am so appreciative of the G.I. Joe fans I've gotten. Ever since I got on those pages, they have been I have not, for every 200 to 300 people that are nice to me, I get one bad one,
Sure.
So I'm so grateful. They are great. But I have so many people saying, "Oh, I friend requested you." And I'm like, "Thank you so much." But I have 800 friend requests from the last week and a half that I was like, you know how long it takes to go through those? Like, and that's just if I don't, and I've constantly probably gone through, I'm not exaggerating, I think 100 to 200 every few days, and I'm still at like 700, which is, like I said, grateful. I'm so glad, but I'm like, you don't have to be my friend to follow. You can still hit that follow button, see my stuff, and just be patient. I can't friend request everyone. I wish I could, but there is a limit eventually. And that's been something I've kind of gotten crap for too, has been like, "Oh, I friend requested you so many days ago," and I'm like, I promise it's in there. I haven't
gotten to
gone
it.
through
No,
them all.
mine is not that bad for sure, but I don't post. I haven't posted any of my customs on my personal page for about 4 or 5 years now because I did what you did and created like a business page, and it took off. Once it's self-sustained, I stopped posting my work on my own page, and I still get friend requests, and it's like, I don't know you. No, follow my page.
Yeah, and I need to update my business page because it was for like local commissions. So my Art of Lauren Wright page is it's under construction right now. But I basically turned my own private page into a public business page, which I like because I wasn't on social media enough to really, I don't use it the same way other people do in terms of like connecting with a lot of people. So when people are like, "Oh, isn't this your personal page? Don't you just want to say hi?" I'm like, no, if you look, it's basically a business page. You don't see any pictures other than a couple of things. You're not going to see my family. You're not going to see, me tagging people in it. Like it's pretty much a business page. And I had to do that because honestly, it was just getting too hard to have a friend page and a business page. I was like, it's my full time now anyway, so I might as well. But people, like I said, if people don't realize, like, commissions, if I have a commission from you, it's the same way with friend requests. I'm working on it. Like I'm working on it. It's I gotta balance everything. Social media, what I was getting with that was social media, even friend requests takes me an hour to go through. And then I have an hour of messages I gotta go through. And then I've got this, and it sounds dramatic, but people don't realize, like, just because I'm not working on your commission doesn't mean I'm not working on my art business. Like, I spend my whole day doing my art business, and I try to spend at least 8 hours of that doing art, but that means your piece might not be done in 24 hours.
Right.
It's funny because last week I told Brian that that you were going to be on the show. And he's like, well, how do you accomplish that? I'm like, well, I asked.
You messaged me.
But see, I took it as, when he asked the question, I took it as, well, how else do you think I'm like, I asked, I'm like, how else would I have done it? Now I'm thinking about it, the way you describe it, obviously you get a lot of feedback on your page, and there's a whole lot of, I'm sure your friends have messages and all that. I'm actually wondering, Brian, should we mean that in terms of how did I manage to
Get
cut
through all
through
that.
the clutter to get her? I didn't realize that totally makes sense. But I was like, well, how? Yeah. See, you were looking at it from the artist with the page that advertises your craft. I'm looking at it as anytime I ask people to be on the podcast, it's just kind of like, well, I figure if they respond and they want to, cool. And if not, well, it's overlooked. In my own personal shit, I overlook shit all the time. I can't keep up with people's shit. I don't know if I could have a page that was solely dedicated to showing off art, because I always joke, because there's customs I've made that it's possible nobody's ever seen, because I'm really bad at taking pictures of them after they're done.
Yeah,
sometimes they're done. I'm just
drives me crazy when you do that.
It drives him nuts. But sometimes it's like, now I did it. I put out. It's done. I can't. It's done. I can't.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't want to. I just don't get around to it sometimes, or forget about it. But
well, that's why I tell people to private message me, because I saw your private message very easily. But then I realized, I didn't realize that a lot went to my spam folder. And one day I was, this is new to the business, because I was like, I always get, people just coming through. And I guess because I had so many happen with the G.I. Joe page, that a bunch went to a spam folder. I was like, oh my God, I did not message these people. And I'm notorious for being a stickler about, I try to message you within 8 hours of you messaging me. That's my thing. So when I saw it was over 24 hours, I had a heart attack. I was like, no. I was like, but then I get, the random just hey girl, how's it going? That kind of thing too. And
those are the ones that you just want to, those are the ones you want to just, oh, fuck off, dude.
those are good for a laugh.
Yeah, it's funny because, because a lot of times, I'll see, now you're doing these live streams, you're doing the art and whatever, and, you got a million people that are talking to you at the chat. And it's going to be one of those things you're going to keep doing the live, and eventually you're going to stop being able to respond to everything people type, because it's going to be like walls of text. And so I think I was actually kind of shocked that you saw it at all, and you actually kind of got back to me. And it's just kind of like, because the amount of, I'm like, I can't, there's customizers that I'm a big fan of, and I might have them on my friends list on Facebook, and I might talk to, but I can't really arrange them to have them on the podcast because they got a lot of shit going on. So it's just really cool that you agreed, to come on the show. And I'm just kind of like, now it's, now it's just kind of like, I'm kind of glad that we got you right now, because if your profile, if the art, your profile goes up, because I don't mean your Facebook profile, you know what I mean?
What he's trying to say is, we're glad we got you on the show before you became super famous and you're unobtainable.
Thanks.
Yeah,
true. Because that's surely what's going to happen now.
No, I don't think so.
Well, you never know. You never know. I mean,
stranger
things.
Things.
I didn't think I would have enough comments on something where I couldn't see them all a few months ago. And I was like, when I posted to one of the G.I. Joe page and it was 400, I was like, I can't even see all these. So that's when I realized, when I kept saying, just please, I need to hold up a sign, just please private message me. It's a lot easier for me to find you than when somebody's like, I asked you 2 weeks ago about pricing, and I was like, no idea where, didn't see it. Facebook will hide stuff for me all the time.
Yeah,
so.
I have that problem on my page. It will only show relevant comments, and I try, like you say, I try and respond to everybody that comments on my stuff. And
usually when I post, I will sit by my phone for I try to at least for the first 30 minutes, if not hour. And you'll notice I try to respond to every single person for that first 30 minutes to an hour. But when it goes to like the next day or the next day, I can't always see it. And it's like, so I try to at least, but I always try to give myself like on my schedule, if it says I need to post, I give myself like a 30-minute to an hour window where I can just sit there and eat and look at my phone and respond, because I know that I'm gonna have so many comments that I won't be able to see them. So and I try to, like you were talking about, JD, I really try with lives, and I'm actually gonna probably go to Twitch/Facebook soon, because I know it's a little easier for me to see comments on Twitch. But I try to make sure that I'm either doing a piece that I don't have to completely focus on, so that I can kind of do that, so I can read more comments and I don't feel like I'm, completely taking away one or the other. But I also try to make sure that I do respond to you guys, because being fans, you're the whole reason I'm doing it. So I'm going to try to always, no matter how quote unquote big I get, or whatever happens, I'm going to always try to respond to as many people as I can. But yeah, eventually it'll get harder. The more people that comment, the harder it's going to be for me to see everything.
All right, we are at just over 2 hours. I want this to be, I want the video not to be too long, so people will watch it all and see your work and get in touch with you. We will post in the comment section below, we will post links to your Instagram and your Patreon, Facebook page. I think I can get all that stuff on my own. I might have to message you just to in case I don't have them, but I think I already have that from you. And we'll see if we can't get you some more work for you.
I appreciate this, you guys letting me come on and talk and hang out. And like I said, I'm excited for con season to start back whenever all this is over, because I'd love to actually meet some G.I. Joe fans and actually get to talk to some people. So I appreciate you guys just letting me come on and be in this experience.
Brian, did she just say letting, like she didn't have a million other choices, things she could have done? She just actually chose to be on this shit.
And of course, as we will always say, you are always welcome to come back. If when con season starts up, you're more than welcome to come on, and we're more than happy to give you a plug for that and get that out there for you. So we're always trying to help out people that are trying to make a living in this business.
Thank you.
All the guys that do Kickstarters and artists. We really want these people to succeed, because that is the fan base. That's what keeps this going. That's what makes this fantastic. And we want to help those people out.
Exactly.
Yep. Like they say in Starship Troopers, I'm doing my part. Well, we don't have a big audience, but it doesn't matter, because if it gets you a few extra fans that didn't see your work before, well, there you go. It could end up with another commission right away. You never know. You never know what people are paying attention to, or what they're gonna latch onto, or what. And you really just don't know that the next person that commissions you actually could, actually lead to, even more attention, I guess.
So I will say thank you for watching this show. Please follow General Geekery on Facebook and subscribe to this channel. Please comment, please like, share, subscribe, all those fun social media things. And also do that for Lauren, please. She has a Facebook page, again, Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon. Those will be down below. And as always, thank you for watching, and tune in next time.